Between 1909 and 1910, Adele DeBurn created the first silver screen using silver paint that was intended for coating cookware, forever changing the landscape of movie screens and ultimately giving us the phrase, the silver screen. She was also the founder of daylight screens. In 2003, Ryan Gustafson set out to create a better screen in his garage. 5 years later, the Black Diamond screen was introduced to the world, pushing the boundaries of the screen landscape and establishing screen innovations as a technological leader in the screen space. So the big question is will ParTay ever have that monumental impact? Hello everyone and welcome to ParTayTV. 6 months. 6 months, right? It's been a long time. It'll probably be closer to 7 by the time that we actually publish this. So, long time. We hope you guys are staying safe out there. For our new subscribers, welcome. For our previous subscribers, thank you for staying with us through that time. We've got a lot of material we're going to be covering over the next few weeks. In this episode, though, we're going to focus in on who ParTay is, what we do, what we specialize in, and that's just so we can give a proper introduction to our new subscribers. So if our previous subscribers, if you'll just kind of bear with us, hopefully there'll be something new in there that you'll learn as well. But we're just going to kind of cover some background, talk about what we want to focus on, and then we'll be moving forward with some displays and things like that. Maybe I'll even sneak a couple little sneak peeks of things into this video. We'll see. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Over the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the home theater space across the world due to the advent of high quality and low cost projectors. So as the rabbit goes, so goes the fox, meaning that as the projector technology has advanced, so did screen tech. Now I chose to highlight the two examples that I did in the intro, primarily because they're the two that had the most influence on my design. Definitely inspirational, especially when I think of Adele DeBurn and the time period that she actually did the Upstart. I mean, that's just phenomenal. And then when I look at Ryan Gustafson starting out in his garage, I mean, one of the first businesses I ever started was actually in a garage. It was a brokerage. And I know the willpower and tenacity that it takes to actually get something like that off the ground whenever you're starting with a light load of capital. And this is not something that's necessarily even to be taken lightly. I think most of the mixers that get into this fall out rather quickly, primarily because what they don't realize is it doesn't take long to get into a lot of expense. I know that we personally spent about $3,000 to $4,000 before we ever launched anything, and that was just going through tons of paint, tons of additives, all kinds of materials, and you're constantly just rolling test panels, and stuff doesn't work, and you really can't do it. I mean, what am I going to do with glass dust other than sandblast something whenever I finish? Now, one of the most common questions that we get here locally from folks is, where did the name ParTay come from? Now, it's not a big deal, but I just felt like, and I know I mentioned it in one of the episodes long time back, that ParTay is actually a combination of my last name and my brother-in-law's last name. So it's Parker and Taylor. Squeeze them together and you get ParTay, and it works for us. My brother-in-law and I have been involved in House of Worship installation as a sideline. Now, me being a cutting-edge TV tech fan, think OLED and everything that was kind of coming before that, I really never took notice of projectors and screens. For us, it was simply a mount, connect, point, and shoot exercise that went along with installation. And personally, my love was always primarily front-of-house capabilities, sound, and intelligent lighting. Bar none, the most common question that I get from folks that know us here locally, whenever we're talking about ParTay, the business, is how did we get into this business? Because most people have known me to be involved in all kinds of technology development and business development, things like that in the past. So how did you get into projection screens? So it is an interesting story. Let me give you some highlights.
I was working on an install for a church gymnasium where the stage area didn't accommodate long throw mounting. So we did some research and opted to go with two LGPF 1000Us on either side of the stage to shoot off of two 120-inch cross-angled screens. Both screens had minimal lux due to placement. They were kind of placed under a ceiling area. So 1,000 lumens actually got the job done quite well.
Now, I had brought home the LG PF 1000U, one of them of the two that we had picked up for the church. I brought it here just to get an understanding because it was really one of the first ultra short throws that I'd really worked with from a ceiling mount position. So I was trying to figure out exactly what the throw ratio was going to be to get my axes right. And so I brought it home, and I actually took it upstairs, and I was using it against the back wall in mine and my wife's bedroom. And I don't know, I was just kind of hooked from there. It was so new to me. Now, looking back, it was a 1,000 lumen projector. It wasn't extraordinarily powerful. It did the job that we needed to do for the church. But I was pretty enamored with it. I was thinking this is definitely the wave of the future. You can hook up your satellite to it. You could hook everything up to it, this little bitty box, and get a pretty decent image. So in a bedroom or something like that, I was thinking this is perfect. You can make the image the size you want. You can kind of cast it on the wall, on the ceiling, whatever works. So from that point, I was pretty much hooked. After that, I started looking for a UST for myself, and I think everybody that's been a subscriber for a while would understand that I chose the Xiaomi. Now, I'd looked at the Optimas, I'd looked at some Epson. For one, I didn't like the aesthetics of the design. Not really a big fan. I've got an Optima Cinema XP1 now that I use, but I wasn't really a fan of the design of a lot of the older models. I just didn't like the look of them, to be honest with you. To me, the LGs looked better, but the LGs weren't as powerful. So, I went ahead and decided on the Xiaomi. To this day, I know that there are people out there who aren't crazy about them, just as there are people out there who aren't crazy about any projector. But I will be honest with you, it's a light cannon compared to what most people think it is. It's not as strong as, say, this guy. But not far beyond. Okay, it's not that much less bright than the P1 is, not in the grand scheme of things. So ultimately, it was a great projector. I still got it now. I'm using it upstairs. I do other things with it. But one of the things that I noticed right off the bat is whenever I turned on any lights, whenever I opened up any windows, I had problems, right? So there was an instant washout. It reminded me of why I'd never been that big on projection in the first place. So I kind of come to a crossroads there. I had to make a choice. Do I stay with projection or just stick with my OLEDs? That was sort of my sweet spot. But I wanted to go bigger. So I decided to set off on a journey to design my own screen.
Now, it all could have ended right there, but me being as stubborn as I am, I set out to make my own better screen. So over the next 9 months, I experimented with pretty much everything I could get my hands on. Now, we started with spray paints, which was mostly useless. Moved into interior-exterior latexes, metallics, pearls, plastisols, working with our own polyurethanes, an endless amount of additives, including diamond dust, glass beads, glass micron, ceramics, and on, mica. None of it which panned out.
So now ultimately, and I know a lot of our previous subscribers would already be aware of this, but ultimately what I did is I reached out to folks in our local colleges here. One specifically was sort of the sweet spot, but just to talk to some folks in optical design so that I could understand what I needed to do, what I needed to focus on to overcome some of the hurdles that we were running into. And one of the things that really became evident is that it was all about light. Every bit of it was about light. You have things that you utilize, you have things that you construct, concentrate all in your mixes or whatever whenever you're dealing with paints. And it just wasn't working. It wasn't doing what I was looking for, because I was looking for more than just a sort of a nice two-dimensional kind of image. I wanted something that had a lot of depth. I wanted something that held up extremely well in high amounts of light. And I wanted something that gave me sort of an emittance feel, where I felt like I'm getting light back out of it, as opposed to just seeing an image, a flat kind of image on the screen.
You see, it's not difficult to paint something that'll look very, very nice in low light environments. Shades of gray to black can be seen all over YouTube that hold up pretty decent in lower degrees of ambient light. It's when you open the right or maybe the wrong window during the day, or you push your light dimmer up for guests that are going to be in your house, that things go south. And let's be honest, most of you wouldn't be here if you were totally and emphatically happy with your current screens. Everybody seems to be looking for the best images at the lowest price, right? For most channels I've seen, this is a bit of a unicorn. It's easy to find the horse, but the horn is a bit suspicious. Now, I had two purposes. I was looking to make my own personal screen, but ParTay actually needed something that could stand up to static levels of 200 to 600 lux without having to move churches up to 8,000 lumen projectors. Now, that might work great for a sanctuary and gyms, any of your auditorium areas, but not so much whenever you're talking about smaller conference and gathering rooms.
So what do we make?
So basically, ParTay products fall into three different product buckets. Now, two of those buckets are screens, and the third would be our DIY coatings. Now, our screens are custom made, and over the last year, we highlighted two major innovations. The first being our flagship line, which is Diamante. Now, Diamante is a multi-layer optical screen that contains no metallics, no reflective minerals or the like of any kind. Okay, it has exceptional balance and clarity, and I would boldly compare it to any of the manufactured screens that cost anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000 or more. Our second is our ProFlex line. Now, that utilizes the Goppity Goop formula, but it utilizes it in a casting method that we do here on site. And it provides the same excellence that Goppity Goop DIY formulas do, but by the way that we cast it, it provides excellent flex properties and shape memory, making it perfect for DIY projects.
Okay, so the first thing, the most important thing, and you're going to hear me say this a good deal, the first thing you need to understand is this is not a paint mix, okay? And I'm not saying that in a disparaging way towards any of the paint mixers out there, but it is not a paint mix, okay? It was very intentionally not a paint mix. As a matter of fact, over the course of time, we worked to remove any of the paint that we had from our mixes. So our formulas have zero paint. Most of them in the screens don't have much in the way of any kind of reflected solids. Our Diamante line, as discussed, has no reflective solids.
ParTay formulas are a hybrid mixture of four polymers. They're not paint, okay? Why does that matter? Well, optically, okay, from an optical design perspective, you will never get a paint mix that will hold up to the same level of light. Just won't happen. Doesn't matter how black you go or how light you go. We'll be talking about that too, because there's a lot of confusion about what black really does out there, okay? But it does matter. Durability is a big component. Pliability, the ability to flex. Paint's only going to flex so far, right? And then color accuracy, color neutrality. Those are very big components and all part of what we put into the design.
I think it's also key to highlight that, as I said, not in a disparaging way from at least towards paint mixes, right? But paint mixes are actually a very good deal if you work in low amounts of light. So if you're in a living room or a bedroom or something where you just have a couple of lamps, maybe somewhere under 2,000 lumens worth of light, 2,000 to 3,000 lumens worth of light that would be pushing it at any point in time, you can get away with some paint mixes that will actually do a very nice job and save you a lot of money. As Crow 1176 says, it save you hundreds, right? So it's about, what works for you. And that's the reason I want to highlight that our specialty is not necessarily low light environments. Now, our screens look gorgeous in low light environments, but it may be that you don't necessarily need the caliber of screen that ParTay makes in your environment. If you're only using, a couple of lamps, 2 or 3 lamps, or maybe a dome light or something in the middle of the ceiling, it's very well likely you may not even need a ParTay screen.
I want to be clear that this is not a one-coat solution. If you're looking for a one-and-done solution, this will not be it. Our focus with our formulas is helping folks to create the best optical screen possible in a very simple application. Not the world's easiest, okay, but a simple application. One that you almost have to try to screw up without sacrificing quality. So Goppity application is a simple 3 to 4 thin coat system intended to be rolled, sprayed over a well-primed surface.
Now, no doubt, I'm making this sound a lot more complicated than what it is. But, it's always, I feel like it's incumbent upon us to be very transparent, be very honest. So it's a very simple process. You almost, as stated earlier, you almost have to try to screw it up to screw it up. I mean, you really do. You'd have to I've even tried to screw it up and it still came out good. So it's not a complex process, but it's not going to be as simple as a one coat solution. But it's also not going to limit you like a one coat solution ultimately will. There's no way that I or any of the people that I've worked with in optical design can think of a way that a single coat solution would ever do it for you, because anything that would coat in a single coat is going to be so particle heavy that you're never going to be able to get any kind of optical effect from a screen. And that's even with a paint mix. If you use pearlized or something, you can get a small degree of sort of optical enhancement, but it's not the same. It's not even close. So just feel the need to put that out there. So I'm sure we're going to get a little bit of humph around this, but unfortunately we're not carrying or making available our screen line online right now. There's very good reasons for that. One is that it's just way too darn expensive to ship these things right now. It's not like shipping prices have really went up. It's just that we're spending somewhere between $100 to $150 just to ship the screen material. That's not even a full-size screen. And whenever you're trying to sell these things at a discounted amount, it's just not conducive for business. So until such time, now we had started talking to a logistical company here through a friend of mine who actually had worked with the dispatch office for quite some time. And we were trying to see if there was a way that we could work out something where we could at least do shipping across continental U.S. And those talks were actually going pretty good. The problem is COVID hit and everything kind of came to a stall. So I do expect that we'll pick that back up. But until I can actually guarantee anything, I don't want to give some sort of promise or hope out there that we're going to be shipping screens, just because I don't know how long it's going to take for us to get to that point. So right now, unfortunately, the only thing that we're going to be able to offer on online sales is going to be our DIY formulas.
We will, however, be offering the Goppity Goop formulas for purchase online. Now, while Diamante is our flagship, Goppity has most definitely been our bread and butter. Everything that you'll be shown on this channel as a ParTay product over the near term will be Goppity based. It's an amazing product with just ultimate imagery capabilities and high ambient light environments.
If that is what you're looking for, then we got you covered. So with that, we're off and running. So the next 2 episodes that we'll be uploading will cover black screens. The reason for that is because while we were out, we received a lot of questions around black screens, a lot of interest in them. So part 1 will be ParTay CSI, the anatomy of a black screen, where we're going to show you basically a lot of the behaviors of black screens and ultimately show you that black screens fall into one of basically 3 buckets, okay? And then the second part will be the five, at least right now the plan is the top 5 display tactics that you want to stay away from. Because there's some common display tactics that are utilized with black screens that you definitely want to be aware of. So if you haven't subscribed, we welcome you to do so. Hit that notification button so you can be apprised of future uploads. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at ParTayTV@gmail.com, and we'll try to get back with you as soon as we can. You guys take care, stay safe out there in COVID land, and we'll talk to you soon.